All right, let's talk Chicago Bears. Now that we're in the thick of OTAs, we're getting closer to training camp. We're starting to see what position battles, what new Chicago Bears are really making a name for themselves. And we always look for corroborating evidence on this channel from really good sources. We're talking valuable veteran reporters, we're talking veteran players, coaches, front office guys across the board. We love corroborating evidence. And when it comes to one Bears rookie, there's a lot of evidence saying that this kid has a very bright future. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Chicago Bears made a lot of big moves over the course of the NFL draft. Frankly, this entire offseason, if we're being honest. But an under the radar addition was Ozzie Trapillo, the offensive tackle, of course, who came in after the big name moves of the first round, Colson Loveland and Luther Burden early in the second round. But when you look across the board in terms of who is making a very strong early impact among the Bears rookies, Trapillo is at the top of the list. Let's get into some articles here, then we'll cover some interesting data involving Trapillo on the other side. So we got two reports. This first one is from the Bears Wire. Joe Thuney spoke about both Trapillo and Amegadaji's, most notably their individual work ethics. For Trapillo, he's already hard at work as he makes the transition to the pro game. He's a really nice guy, good dude, Thuney said. He works really hard, gets in his playbook. It's a big jumping from college. It's a big jump coming from college to the pros. He's working really hard, keeping his head down, listening, taking everything like a sponge. It's really cool to see. He's doing really well so far. So the important thing there is really twofold. One, Trapillo's working hard. He's getting the mental game right, getting his head in the playbook. But number two, and don't discount this, he's not being, for lack of a better word, a rookie asshole, right? It happens. Some of these rookies come in with a big head. They think they're all that, and they piss off everyone around them. Everyone who's worked for any organization, whether you've been on a football team, college, pro, or you work in an office or whatever it may be. Sometimes you bring in a young guy to come in, you hire a new guy, he comes in, he's got a big head, he's arrogant, he's a jerk. It just annoys everybody. It just disrupts the flow of things. Not a good thing. We're not seeing that with Trapillo, which is obviously a good sign. And look, there's no one that's going to be more respected than Joe Thuney, really across the NFL, maybe in this entire, really, not just maybe the Bears. I think really honestly the entire NFL. He may be the most respected player right now if you look at his pedigree and his career, everything he's done. So Thuney giving his praise here is something to really pay attention to. But we're talking about corroborating evidence, and that leads us into our second article. This is courtesy of Athlon Sports. Former NFL tight end and current analyst Clay Harbor recently posted Ozzie Trapillo took every snap with the first team offensive line. It held his own, did a nice job. Ozzie doesn't look like a rookie to me. He looks smooth. He's got bend. He seems like he fits. That's tough to do when you're playing next to Joe Thuney. All right, so when we talk about playing next to Joe Thuney and just everything Trapillo is doing, he looks the part. And I think this is another important factor here when any rookie coming into the OTAs, right? Because we're not going full bore. It's not live. It's not, 11 on 11. So at this point, you're just looking, hey, do guys look like they fit? Bryce Young, quarterback from the Carolina Panthers, when he was drafted a few years ago, he showed up at OTAs. He looked tiny. Didn't look like he fit at all. Really struggles early on in his career for Bryce Young. Hopefully he turns around. Maybe he's heading in the right direction. But you could tell early on, Bryce Young, it doesn't look like he fits. He doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. So far, Trapillo looks like an NFL offensive lineman, looks like an NFL offensive tackle. I love the fact that he took every single rep with the ones. Obviously, Braxton Jones still recovering from the injury, but the fact that Trapillo is off to such a good start is really important. And while we're talking about Braxton Jones and injuries, it's also important to focus on what the Bears are looking for at this position, and at really any position, but certainly left tackle, is you need stability, you need consistency, you need reliability, right? And one of the things, as good as Braxton Jones has been at times, in fact, let's go and pull up our next chart here to highlight what we're talking about, is he's missed a lot of games. He hasn't been as reliable as a quality starter left tackle needs to be. So if you look at over the past two seasons and then combined, you can see the games missed by Braxton Jones in blue for 2023, 2024, and both those years combined, and Ozzie Trapillo in red for 2023, 2024, in both those years combined. You can see Braxton Jones has missed a lot of football. Trapillo has missed one game each of the last two seasons for 2 games total. You'd like that ideally in a perfect world to be 0. We don't live in a perfect world. Injuries do happen. Braxton Jones has had more of the injury bug. That is a problem, especially when you have a young superstar quarterback. You need your offensive tackles and certainly your blindside left tackle to be reliable, consistent. The injuries are a problem with Braxton Jones, and Trapillo being a guy who is reliable, durable. I think he's an option for a long-term development to maybe replace Jones if they let him walk, of course, in free agency, or at the very least being being a very reliable backup left tackle, swing tackle kind of role. And when you talk about Trapillo, comparing him with the other guys that were drafted around him, he plays very favorably. Let's go ahead and pull up this chart right here to highlight exactly what we're talking about. So we're looking at the guys that were drafted relatively recently, right before Trapillo was selected by the Chicago Bears. So you can see Donovan Jackson. You see Jonah, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, by the Miami Dolphins. We talk about Ariante Ursary from the Houston Texans, and then Trapillo, and you can see in parentheses where they were selected. So you can see across the board here, if you look at pass block grade and true pass set grade, pass block grade in blue, true pass set grade in red. This is according to PFF last year along the collegiate ranks. Trapillo is very consistent, both grades, right? Pass block grade includes play action pass protection. It includes true pass set pass protection. It includes everything, right? True pass set pass protection, pass rush grade, pass set grade is just, hey, it's a standard drop back, 3rd down and 8, kick step kind of traditional pass protection, the way we think of offensive tackles. So when you look at Trapillo, he again, consistency, doesn't miss a lot of games, consistent performer, no matter how you look at his pass pro. He is very, very steady. Not a lot of deviation. These other guys here, a lot of deviation between how they do normal overall pass block grade versus their true pass set grade, right? Big delta, not with Trapillo. So what you get from this young guy is consistency. You get the hard work, you get the mentals, you get the fact he looks like he fits. You get a guy who isn't missing a lot of time, certainly compared to Braxton Jones, and you get a guy who's a consistent performer. Right now, the Chicago Bears, they have their 2 bookend tackles on paper with Darnell Wright on the right and Braxton Jones on the left. But it's clear looking at Ozzie Trapillo that he fits a very interesting niche for this team, either as a quality backup swing tackle who is steady as the day goes, or a potential future left tackle for this Bears offense. I think he's an exciting prospect with a bright future. All right, Miles, I went on a pretty long rant there when it comes to Trapillo, but there's a lot to talk about with this kid, and I know you've got a few thoughts. But first, Bears fans, in the comment section below, as we look at this Bears roster, the way it currently sits, what's one position group that really concerns you? There's a lot to be excited about, but what's one position group that you're like, hey, listen, this could be a problem. We got to have some guys step up. We got to have the coaching staff work around this. Give us the one position group, offense, defense. We'll go both sides of the football here that really worries you. Put it in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on Ozzie Trapillo and just the Bears offensive line in its current situation?
Yeah, and I think the point you bring up here as far as what Trapillo could bring is he's a pretty he's either like a solid double or a home run pick one way or the other. Either like you said, you get a quality, stable, consistent swing tackle, or you can get your future starting left tackle out of Trapillo. I think he does a really great job. I think he brings a lot to the table. Just very consistent. And I think that was the Bears' idea in this offensive line reset. Obviously, they spent a lot of capital on building this offensive line. I think, you look at what's going on there. They bring in Dahlman, a really great center. They bring in Thuney at left guard, really help building that. They've got the young guy in Darnell Wright at tackle last year. That was a first-round draft pick in 2023. You got Jonah Jackson, a guy that comes in here doing some good stuff there as well. So bringing in Trapillo, another guy, I think this offensive line, they show, hey, we have a plan and we are not going to let anything derail it. Whether you look at Braxton Jones, yes, he could be a quality player. He can be good, but then you diagnose it further. What's been his biggest downside? Injuries, inconsistency, missing games. We're still going to double down, make the pick. But when we make the pick, we're going to bring in a pick who can do multiple things. It's not just a guy like if he plays left tackle, that's all he's got. That's all she wrote. It's left tackle or bust. We're going to bring in a guy who's versatile, who can do a lot of good things. And when you look at Trapillo, that's what he does as far as this is a guy who playing in 2022 started at left tackle his entire that whole season, 646 snaps there. You look what he did in 2023, 2024, over 700 snaps at right tackle both those years. So swing tackle, got it, did some good stuff at both sides, really just can come in and slot in however you need him. So I think that's the key here for me is when looking at this Bears team and looking at what they've done this whole offseason, they've systematically gone through and said, hey, at least, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think the defense for me personally, the defense has a lot of strong points. There's good stuff. They brought in Odeingbo, brought in Grady Jarrett. That defensive line good. Linebackers, I think it could be okay. It's yet to be seen though. That's where I'm the the most iffy on as far as that go. Corners decent. safeties decent, but this offense in total, they said, all right, we got Caleb Williams. Let's maximize his talent. Let's revamp the offensive line, leave no doubt there. Let's get a great playmaking tight end and Colston Loveland there. Let's bolster our already strong receiving room. We got O'Dunes, we've got more. Let's bring in Luther Burden, add that to this as well. Let's make the offense have no question. I love when teams do that. Say, hey, we've got a young star quarterback coming into the fold, coming into year two. Let's really build an offense around him and leave no excuses, leave no doubt that, hey, we want this guy to succeed. So far, so good. I think Trapillo is a big part of that, just showing either A, he's going to be your future left tackle, or B, he can be really quality depth going forward.
And just to highlight consistency, because again, when you have those talented playmakers, like you mentioned, of course, Caleb Williams behind center, a lot of times what you need from your offensive line isn't necessarily being elite all of the time. You just need to be good all of the time, right? There can't be, hey, 9 out of 10 reps are great, and then just two are debacle, or one is debacle, I should say. 8 out of 10 are great, then two are debacles. That doesn't work. When you have elite talent, you need your offensive line to be steady, consistent. That's one of the many reasons why the Bears brought in the veterans that they did. They were looking for stability, iron it out, move away from these deviations. And Braxton Jones, when he misses games, that obviously introduces some deviations, but his actual performance has some deviations as well. If you look at it according to PFF last year, the difference between his worst game and his best game is almost 35 points in pass protection. That's a massive leap. If you look at Trapillo in college, the difference in terms of pass protection grade, his difference between his best game and his worst game, much closer to 20 points. Now, I understand that's comparing pros to college. It's not exactly apples to apples, but you want a lot more consistency. You want the difference between your best and your worst to be really narrow. You don't want a lot of variability, especially at the left tackle position. Braxton Jones has moments where he's really, really good and has games and stretches and even months where he's really good, but he misses too much time and there's too much variability in his performance. I look at a guy like Ozzie Trapillo to compete with him, to potentially replace him, becoming that consistent factor at the offensive tackle position, to give what Caleb Williams a force he can rely on, give Ben Johnson an offensive tackle he can rely on. That's one of the secrets to the Lions' success, actually. Their offensive line was really good over the past couple of years with Ben Johnson, but it wasn't because they had 5 All-Pros. It's because they were steady and consistent game in and game out. Trapillo fits that same kind of mold. I'm excited to see how he continues to grow and develop. I know a lot of people look at their first 2 picks, the Bears' first 2 picks, offensive playmakers, big-time weapons. But when it's all said and done, Ozzie Trapillo may have the biggest impact out of any selection the Bears made in 2025.